Now we're going to start on our systems, and we're going to start out with the integumentary system. It's the first one we do, and there's several reasons for why we do it first, but the main one being that it's the easier system. So this would be the last chapter that's included in your Unit 1 exam. And your labs would be Lab 1, which is the introductory lab, Lab 2, which is tissues, and Lab 3, which is the integumentary system. Now, our skin is the largest organ of the body, and it makes up about 10 to 15% of our body weight. And it helps because it's got a lot of other structures in it that help with homeostasis. It's also called the cutaneous membrane, and we will learn that in the last chapter. It's got two parts. It's got that avascular epidermis, which is keratinized stratified squamous epithelium, and that sits on the basement membrane. And then deeper to that is the dermis, and it's loose connective tissue, that areolar tissue, and dense irregular connective tissue. And there are other structures that are embedded in the skin, such as sweat glands, sebaceous glands that make oil, our fingernails and our toenails and our hair. There's also sensory receptors in there and muscles called arrector pili muscles or arrector pili muscles. And this is smooth muscle, and it's associated with your hair. That's what's responsible for giving us chill bumps. Now, the hypodermis is underneath the dermis. So it's called subcutaneous. Hypo means under, sub means under, and derm is skin, whereas cutaneous is the skin. So this is under the skin. It is not part of the skin. It anchors the skin to anything underneath it, like muscles and bones. And you'll see it usually, even in your lab, it's got a lot of yellow tissues in it. That's because it's got a lot of adipose tissue, as well as a blood supply. And so that's going to be just right around the bottom here of the skin picture that's there. Now, the epithelial tissue the integumentary system has several functions. I said epithelial because it's made of epithelial tissue. But the first one is protection. It is going to resist abrasions and pressure and mechanical trauma, anything that scrapes it or pulls at it. It has a lot of glands in it, and some of those glands secrete antimicrobial substances. Your sebaceous glands cause your skin to be slightly acidic, and so a lot of organisms, pathogens, disease, viruses, and bacteria things, they cannot live in that acidic pH, so that helps us. Also, the skin provides for sensation because it's got a lot of receptors there, sensory receptors, and they can detect harmful stimulus of any kind, like hot, cold, pain, pressure, those kinds of things, anything that can cause tissue damage. Thermoregulation, maintaining our constant body temperature. That is the job of the skin, because what are you going to do if you get too hot? You're going to sweat. If you get too cold, you're going to shiver. And so the skin functions in thermoregulation. It also excretes. There are some waste products and toxins that are eliminated through the skin. Like sweat has some waste in it. It also helps make vitamin D. All you got to do is go in the sun and make some vitamin D. And vitamin D is crucial for your bone development, for your muscles, for it's anti-inflammatory. So vitamin D is very important. Now that top layer of the skin is called the epidermis. Epi means upon, and derm means skin. So it's upon the skin, upon the dermis. And it has several types of cells. It has keratinocytes, which are organized into different layers or strata that we'll talk about in a minute. They make the keratin, which helps to waterproof us, this keratin. It helps to make us more resistant to any kind of mechanical abrasion or trauma. It makes the epidermis stronger. And all of the cells are linked together by the desmosomes. So that's going to make the epidermis even stronger. Now, I told you that those keratinocytes are divided into different layers or strata. And so we're going to start at the bottom and work our way to the top of the skin. Okay? So starting at the bottom, we're right here. Here's the basement membrane. Okay? Everything under that line is connective tissue. Okay? So we have one layer of cells right there on top of the basement membrane that make up the stratum basal, or the base layer. And these cells are close to the blood supply that's in the dermis. And so they are getting oxygen and nourishment, and so they are alive and dividing by mitosis. And as the cells one cell makes two, they get crowded, and so we start pushing them up into the next strata or layer. Above the stratum basal is this thick area right in here. All of this. It's called the stratum spinosum. And it's several layers thick, as you see. It's close enough to that underlying connective tissue that it's got a good blood supply. So here, the cells are also alive and dividing by mitosis, and they get pushed up and pushed up. And you'll notice as they get pushed up to the top region right in here that they kind of get flatter looking, more squamous. They're more cuboidal down at the bottom in the stratum basal and at the bottom of the stratum spinosum. But as they move up, they become more squamous. Then you get to the stratum granulosum. The stratum granulosum is this dark area right here. That's 3 to 5 layers of cells. These cells have gotten pumped full of keratin. And so that's going to help waterproof us. And it helps with maintaining internal fluid and electrolyte homeostasis. Now, they are far enough away from that basement membrane down here that they're not going to be getting nourishment and oxygen from the blood supply in the connective tissue. So they are going to die in this, and so they really become squamous and flat, and they die by the time they get here. The stratum lucidum is this white area that you see right there. And you won't see this in any skin except thick skin, like you have on the soles of your feet or the palms of your hands. That's where you find the stratum lucidum. The skin on your scalp and your arm and your chest and your back, that has no stratum lucidum. It just has the 4 regions. But if it's got the stratum lucidum, these are dead keratinocytes, and it's a clear area. That's why it's usually depicted in white. Above that is the stratum corneum, and it's the outer region. So it's all of this right here, okay? And it's several layers of dead, flat keratinocytes. And they are filled with keratin. And when they get to the top, they just automatically slough off or exfoliate. And it doesn't hurt because they've been dead for a very long time. Now, those layers are very important to remember. So I've got a study boost here. To remember the layers starting at the bottom, moving up. Brilliant studying gives loads of confidence. Brilliant is basal. Studying spinosum gives granulosum. Loads lucidum. Confidence corneum. Maybe that'll help. But remember, basal and base mean it at the bottom. Okay, brilliant studying gives loads of confidence. Now, I mentioned before, you got thick skin on the palms of your hands and on the soles of your feet. And so they have a lot of mechanical stress. So they're going to be able to handle this more because they have that stratum lucidum. And you can look here at the differences in the picture in thick skin, like on the sole of your foot, and thin skin that you find on your arms and your scalp and your legs and your stomach and all that. And you just see there's a big difference there. Thick skin, we say thick skin, we look at these graphics, but it's really about as thick as a paper towel. It has all 5 layers, and the stratum corneum is very thick, lots of layers. There's no hair follicles, but a lot of sweat glands. Think about it. You got thick skin on your palms and the bottoms of your feet. Do you sweat? Can you get sweaty palms, sweaty feet? Yes. But do you grow hair from your palms and your palms of your feet? No. Other areas have thin skin, and it's about as thick as a sheet of printer paper. And it only has the 4 strata, the 4 layers. The lucidum is missing. However, you have hair follicles, hair, sweat glands, and sebaceous glands. Now, what is a callus? A callus forms when you have extra layers of stratum corneum. And you can get a callus in thick or thin skin. And it's caused by repetitive pressure. We've heard of corns that people get on their foot. And it's the stratum corneum has just thickened so very much that corn pad has something in it that will cause it to loosen and you can peel it off. That's really nice topic, isn't it?